Ford realized he can't do everything together, all by himself. Put that car together and engineer it and everything. So he had helpers. So he had to cooperate with some engineers and helpers and put together the car. And so capitalism requires cooperation. And so the more you produce goods and services, the more you have cooperation. And as we remember, let's go back and remember our definition of ethics. Ethics is the appropriate dispensation of respect, and we use respect to cooperate. And suddenly we're getting more cooperation in society through the production of goods and services. And that leads us to a more ethical society, believe it or not, through the production of goods and services. And so you have cooperation induces ethics, but then you also have competition in free market enterprise. So we have to add in competition. And what is competition? Competition, remember we talked about freedom, and that it's the creation of a priority and then effectuation of the priority. Well, when you're in a society with other people, they may have the same priority. So when Mr. Ford creates a car, then he goes out and wants to sell it. Somebody in society is also looking at that. Maybe a guy named General Motors is looking at it and going, you know, I can make that car too. And so you have competition. And when you have competition, you have the narrowing of priorities. In other words, the priorities are now coming closer together to make the same transaction. So what do you do? What does competition do? It causes the law of differentiation to take effect. And that is what produces all the variances and all the stores that you have ever been in your whole life. It produces every variance. So when competition happens and life knows that competition is inimical to your health, because it's going to be harder to divide up the resources amongst yourselves. So what happens is the law of differentiation comes in and says diversify. Don't become like that other person. And so what happens to Ford? He creates the Model T, and then he creates the Model A, and then he creates but it's all in black. And then General Motors comes out and goes, well, we'll make cars in red and white, and we'll compete against that guy who just made black cars. And so they come out and and that's due to the law of differentiation, because they don't want to directly compete with Mr. Ford, so they go out and they create other cars that might suit the proclivities and the likenesses and the desiderata of other human beings, because all life does that which is good for it. So they diversify through the law of differentiation. And so capitalism is the law of differentiation. It's cooperation. It's ethics. It is the transaction. It is motivation, and it's freedom, all working together. And that's how free market enterprise. And the great thing about it is that when you produce something, you get a return. The reason why you get a return is because it's a reward. And we only do it because we see that there's some goodness in buying that article, and on the manufacturer side, we only manufacture because we see that our product has goodness that will be useful to somebody else, and we'll cooperate together, and so you manufacture more goodness, which brings us up away from misery, and that is the nature of free market enterprise, and we do it peacefully and ethically, because in order to do so, you need cooperation.